What is up, guys? What is up? First name, last name, first in the house. Your name is fitting of your rank in this case. What is up, man? This is DDP with the Dallas Prospect, here to preview the Cowboys-Titans game for Monday Night Football. I don't know about you, but this bye week was killing me not having more to talk about. Obviously, we had the Amari Cooper trade, which will be a big part of kind of the storyline going into this game. But I'm really curious to see what they're able to do. Let me check the levels here. I think the background music might still be a smidge high. Let me know how that sounds with the balance and whatnot. So, we have the Tennessee Titans coming to Arlington to face the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously, there is going to be a lot on the line for Dallas here. There's no doubt that the entire coaching staff is running out of leash as far as its ability to basically just keep its job at this point. Travion, what's up? Tavion, sorry. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Between their admitted, just by going and getting Amari Cooper, they had to acknowledge effectively that their philosophy of not needing a true number one receiver was a complete failure. Firing the offensive line coach, Paul Alexander, another example of that. Another sign that they could not work with what their philosophy was. That paired with just the general performance from Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan. And yeah, you can also point to the situation with quarterback and say, you know, hey, if you're going to win with Dak, it's probably not going to happen with this coaching staff, at least with this coordinator and this head coach in place. But Dallas has a lot on the line here. Let's see. I think we want a shot at the division. We can only afford to lose 2 more games if we want a shot. I think 9-7, you could win the division this year. This is a very weak year for the division, I think. But there's certainly very little margin for error at this point. Dallas has yet to win back-to-back games this season. They've yet to win a game on the road. And 2 of the next 3 are on the road. What up, DT? Audio sounds good. Awesome. So, let me run through a quick little kind of plug here for a second. Let me see. So, if you guys haven't already, take a moment, like the video. Yeah, almost had a flawless setup on that. Why is my graphic not set up? No, I see why. Hit me up with your guys' question. First, let's get your guys' thoughts in the comments here while I make this quick adjustment on the graphic. What are you guys anticipating for this game? Do you think Dallas bounces back, or do you think Dallas effectively continues to struggle at this point? What are your thoughts? What are your expectations? If we were in the AFC, probably, they'll lose 2 or 3 more games, risky because the NFC is stacked and tight. Yeah, fair point. Let's see here. Stevie Mac, what up? Talking Mavericks. Cool. Yeah, Mavericks are off to a little bit of a rough stretch. Lost 5 straight. But we got time to talk Mavericks later. Let's see here. Also, if you guys haven't already, check us out on Twitter, and there goes the reminder to like the video again as well. Trying to set all this up and learn it as I go. But yes, follow me on Twitter. You have my personal Twitter account at DDP_journalist or the Dallas Prospect at Dallas Prospect as well. So let's get into the nitty-gritty here, which means I need to now effectively hide this graphic. Let's go back to what we had, although that'll bring up the animation. Thumbs. Still working my way through some of this. All right, we're back to default through some of my new setup I've been doing. So let's preview the game itself. I'm expecting Coop to get like 5 to 7 receptions for about 50 to 70 yards. Yeah, that sounds pretty on point with what I would anticipate. I've seen people kind of predicting the over-under. I've seen the average predicted to be like 4 for about 50. And I've seen other people say it's probably going to be more like 3 for 30. just because of the no time. I mean, yeah, they had the bye week, but no real time to build chemistry or integrate him the way they would like to integrate him into the offense. So I've seen both of those assertions made. So much for signing Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever his name was, huh? Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think you're still on Mavericks. But, yeah, they're going to have to do something. And here's the thing. Tennessee is a very confusing team because they can beat anybody most weeks or they can lose to anybody. They are extremely inconsistent. To give some added note to that, there's nothing to do with the Cowboys. Get West the F out of here. All right. So talking Tennessee right now, Tennessee's passing yards per game is the 30th rated pass attack. To give some precedent to that, the Cowboys actually have a better passing attack according to NFL.com. As far as the passing yards per game, Cowboys are better at this point than Tennessee, which seems crazy. You wouldn't make that assumption. If anything, looks like Tennessee is about 281. Dallas listed at 320 after Dak's big game last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever, at Washington. So something to take note there. Tennessee's passing attack is very much something that can be had. You look then, excuse me, that was their total yards. That wasn't passing yards. That was total yards. My mistake. Their passing yards, they rate 30th and Dallas is 29th. Looks like their passing yards per game. Wow. 173 versus 183. Wow. I wouldn't have thought you could be that low at that point and still have Dallas in front of you. But, all right. Tennessee, if you're taking a look. So here's where things could tighten up a little bit. By the way, Tennessee's rushing defense is also rushing offense is also 19th. This is very much a game that Cowboys defense should have an advantage, and they should be able to impose their will. Even with David Irving being carted off from practice today, yes, I'm going to get into that in just a moment, but even with that development and the pass rush not being at full strength, Dallas should be able to take advantage of this Tennessee offense. It's a bad offense, can't run the ball really well, can't throw the ball very well. I mean, running is at least 19th. It's at least close to the middle of the league, but its passing attack is very weak. So this is an offense that our defense can impose its will on, and that makes me fearful that Dallas is going to then shift its focus to being uber conservative and just say, hey, we don't turn the ball over, we're not going to lose this game. Dak's like 21-1 when he doesn't turn the ball over. That's all we got to do, man. Just don't turn it over. And my problem with that thinking, you play to win, you don't play not to lose. You are the aggressor. You are the one who comes out and tries to punch the other team in the mouth, not the one who's just sitting back playing defense the whole time, figuratively speaking. OG Kush, what up? Should we have tried for Carl Joseph as well with Coop? You could have, but it would have been more expensive at that point, and I think that the only move Dallas was looking to make outside of the deal for Cooper, what up, Brett Bender? The only move Dallas was willing to make outside of Amari Cooper would have been for a tight end from the sounds of it. If they had been able to get like a Cameron Brate, they would have done that. And by the way, that would have been a feasible option too, because that's a good, solid tight end, pass catcher. And in Tampa Bay, where they're not very good, with the emergence of O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, despite getting last offseason got like a 4-year deal for like $34 million or something like that. He has kind of been pushed aside by the emergence of O.J. Howard. So that would have been a feasible get, but we never heard anything come of it. We just heard that if they were going to look at an additional acquisition, it would have been a tight end, which, by the way, is to me a further admittance of the failure as far as the preparation and planning coming into this season. Both the receiver and the tight end position were disastrously handled, I think. Let's see here. Don't mind me. I'm just going to keep plugging various things here. Follow us on Twitch. Yes, we're on Twitch as well. Testing out all my little animations and whatnot. No, don't keep going. Anyway, so that's where Dallas has an advantage there. A third for Joseph is the price you were saying. Yeah, I don't think they were going to give up a third after they already gave up the first, even with them not wanting to admit that this was probably this is more a move for the future than it is for this year. Could Amari help them make the playoffs this year potentially? Yeah, I think so, but I don't think that it's the expectation or the assumption at this point. This is a move for the future, and this is why, if you watched my video yesterday, oh man, I wish I had been more set up to go live when I really got hot on this rant, because I went pretty much thermonuclear on just fury, just complete burn it down mode. When this was posed to me, I had someone with a straight face try to make the argument that it was a mistake to acquire Amari Cooper for a first, which, by the way, I said I would have preferred to give up like something like a second, maybe even a second and a fourth, not a first. So it was rich for my blood too. But they were trying to make the argument that because Demaryius Thomas was gotten by the Texans for a fourth, and their production in the last year and a half was roughly the same, or at least comparable, that, you know, if the assumption was Demaryius Thomas was declining and therefore not worth acquiring, he would have been still better for Dallas than Cooper. And that's insane to me, because you completely ignore the age difference. And I broke down their stats in the last year and a half in that video, and I talked specifically about, hey, here's the difference in number of targets, here's the difference in number of yards, here's the difference in yards per target, here's the difference in touchdowns, which, by the way, was 0. Broke all that down, but I went thermonuclear on this. Tavion, this was just someone and not in the chat or anything like that. This was like a real life interaction there, where someone to my face, and I just went probably about as hot as I've gotten in a sports rage in a long time. So I drove home, and I was still fuming on the drive home, and set up for the stream, but by then the hottest edge of the rage had kind of dissipated, and I had, you know, tried to go like, all right, I want actual stats to back this up. And so by the time I got the stats and everything assembled, accumulated, whatever, the worst of the rage had already subsided, and so it still was a little bit more straight-laced than I wanted it to be, but whatever. Haha for a fourth or something. I like haha Clinton Dix, and I hate that the Redskins got him. That sucks. Carl Joseph, only 5'10". Rashard wouldn't want him. Third is also too much when there's better safeties in free agency next offseason. Good discussion. I like this. Amari was 225 when the Raiders, and now weighs about 203 to 210 when he came to Dallas. Think he'll improve his route running. I don't think his route running was so much the problem. I think the last year and a half he's been kind of disengaged. How many catches do you think Amari Cooper gets in his first game? Catches, I'm going to say probably about 5. Yards, I'm going to say probably in the range of 65 to 80. Might have a touchdown in there as well, which would be awesome. Speaking of which, as I was plugging my Twitter account earlier, at DDP_journalist or at Dallas Prospect if you want the prospect one. Something to check out on that front as well. I tweeted this out earlier. The Cowboys have not had since 2015. So 2014 they had it. 2015, 16, 17, and obviously, you know, half of this season essentially. They have not had a 1,000-yard receiver. And the closest they came in that stretch was Terrence Williams with about 840-something in 2015. That's the closest they've come to a 1,000-yard receiver the past 3.5 years. That's eye-opening. For further context of that, only 3 teams other than the Cowboys have also failed to do that. That's a receiver or a tight end, just a 1,000 reception yards, receiving yards, whatever, from a single player. Cowboys are one of 4 teams not to have that. That's why when Jerry Jones made the assertion a couple weeks back that it's been several years since they've had a number 1 receiver, you know, everyone's like, oh, what a shot at Dez. I'm like, it's not really a shot. From a production standpoint, we haven't had anything since 2014. And if you take Dez Bryant out of the equation, they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2010. Like, it's not that crazy. So that's why they made the deal for Amari Cooper. I think Bob Sturm on the ticket today had a very good point. He was talking about what would it take for you to consider Amari Cooper the deal, even though we all agree that the price was, they overpaid a little bit to get him. What would you consider a success for him? To me, I would say he pretty much hit the nail on the head. If he can give you after this year, you don't count these 9 games. I don't even care what happens in these 9 games. If the next 2 years he's able to give you back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons, that's going to be worthy of the investment, I guess. Just because of what this offense asks of them to do, that is what it is. What about Tate? Why not take Tate, this dude in Philly? Okay, so Golden Tate. Here's the thing. Just like Demaryius Thomas is 30, turns 31 Christmas Day this year. So this was a move for the future. And in that same vein, so is the same reasoning with Golden Tate. Golden Tate is a slot receiver, and you already got that with Cole Beasley. Golden Tate is 30 years old, and something to Golden Tate's credit, and I talked about this before the Cowboys-Lions game a few weeks ago. Golden Tate, since he signed with the Detroit Lions, was like 4th or 5th in the league in receiving yards in that span, which is damn impressive, and not a guy you would have thought of having that. And then in that game, he went $130 for 2 touchdowns. So for Philly, who's in win-now mode, he's a perfect investment, especially with them not having a great slot guy in that case. For the Texans, Demaryius Thomas makes sense. They weren't replacing a number 1 receiver. They were replacing Will Fuller, their number 2. So you're getting a guy who has more of a 2 at this point in his skill set, but still has some ability to flash the traits that made him a number 1 receiver, and a dominant one at that. Don't forget he got his big payday the same summer that Dez got his, and both guys ultimately failed to completely live up to it. But you have that. He fits what they need. They're in win-now mode. They've had good momentum since that Cowboys win. That makes sense for the Texans. Demaryius Thomas would not have made sense for the Cowboys, nor would have Golden Tate. And for the record, people still raging about Josh Gordon going for a 5th-round pick. Wouldn't have made sense either. It just wouldn't have. It would not, because he's a guy who is 1 strike away from a lifetime ban. You know who else has that for the Cowboys? Randy Gregory. So why would you want 2 guys that you have to sweat all the damn time for the drug abuse policy? Like, it doesn't make sense. And because he was a Baylor guy, they had already done all of the groundwork and all the background information from his former coaches and all of that. They've known about him, and they're like, nah, we're not even going to offer anything for him, even though he went for a 5th. Cool, we can't rely on a 5th, at least not unless we brought him in the offseason and had time to properly integrate him into our culture, into our system, and all of that. And, you know, speaking of him, and the dynamic and dichotomy, whatever, with Randy Gregory, you know, people were labeling him a bust and a disaster and all of that. And to be fair, he hasn't, even though he's playing this season, he hasn't done a whole lot to make you say otherwise. But Josh Gordon was a 1st-round pick, not a 2nd-round pick. And Josh Gordon missed like 43 out of 48 games at one point for suspensions. Was suspended basically 2 full seasons. So tell me how you would feel about him if the Cowboys did have him, like say if they had drafted him and he had all that issue. Or if he comes in now like he's in New England, if they had made that pick for him, or made the trade for him, I should say, and he immediately gets suspended and you lose that. It's just like, all right, you lost that pick. Maybe you have some kind of conditional on it, but I don't know. I just don't think it's worth investing in. So I think, although I feel they overpaid for Cooper, the investment for the future, him being 24 years old, 2-time Pro Bowler, good route runner with some Dez Bryant-esque traits, I think it makes a lot of sense, even though he's got a case of the dropsies. 20% drop rate in his rookie year, and I think it was 14 was his rookie year. It was 15, 16, and 17, so basically the 2.5 or 3 seasons since then, he's had about a 13, 14% drop rate, which is still high, but it's not... It's high, but it's not one of those... It's not like you're going to see him drop 4 passes a game or something crazy like that. Like, you just have to see. I think he's been I think he's been a little bit disengaged in Oakland the last year or so mentally. I think he's been just kind of out of it, and I think this change of scenery will be good for him. But we'll see. I got off on a long tangent there. Let me hit the comments here. Let me see. I've been feeling kind of sick and trying to recover, so I've been drinking a lot of tea. Tate is 30, last year of contract. Yep, Tate is 30. It's Philly and the Deadskins. Dallas Jerry just needs the win now mentality. What is the likeliness of us on draft night to trade and get a late first-round pick? Asking primarily due to the last draft, there was a lot of moving going on. The likelihood, it's possible if the right guy is falling to them that they would look to do it. But if you move back up into the first, say goodbye to your second and maybe like your fourth, and after you've already given up a first, that's really, I don't think that's wise. I mean, the only way I do it in that situation is if, like, the top player I want is falling to me. Like, let's say whoever the best tight end is, if he's projected, like, middle of the first, and suddenly he's there at, like, 27, and let's say I'm moving up from, like, 34 to 27, maybe that's worth it. But I tend to say you just play the cards you're dealt at this point. You lost your first round pick, you just make do with what you got in the rest of those picks you got. All right, so I talked a little bit about the Tennessee offense and how it can be had. Here's where Tennessee is more difficult. Tennessee's total defense is 11th in the NFL. They're actually a pretty good defense. So that's something that they're going to have to contend with. To go into the specifics of that, their pass defense is 9th in the NFL. So that is something that we're going to have to look at and consider how to address and how they're going to work with that. Because even though you got Amari Cooper now, the Dallas pass attack hasn't been that great. You got to think it'll open up a little bit more, because now that you have Cooper, even if Cooper himself isn't getting 8 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown, he's still someone who will draw attention. That was the best thing Dez still had going for him, even just last year when his overall production was down. He was still able to draw that attention from the defense and make things happen for other guys. So that's something that they should be able to rely on just by Cooper being on the field, even if he's not fully up to speed yet and able to take over the game himself. So that'll help guys like Beasley. We'll see how much that makes an impact here. I really want to see Michael Gallup continue breakout. And I think Gallup, now that you have a Cooper on the field, I think Gallup, who's been starting to flash a little bit here and there, I think he's about to have a real big game, his first really big game. Speaking of which, the Tennessee rushing defense is 19th, much more middle of the pack. I think that's another defense that can be had as well. So that's your attack. Dallas, I think, is going to come into this game super conservative. Just have the mindset of, hey, don't worry about taking deep shots down the field. If Cooper takes a slant and breaks it for a big gain or something, awesome. Because since 2014, since Cooper came into the league, I think Amari Cooper is like 4th in plays of 25-plus yards. I believe I saw that stat today. I should have screen capped it when I saw it. But if so, that shows the guy's got big playability. There's no doubt, no dispute about that. He's got big playability. He's got home run ability, and he's a bigger receiver with good route running. So that's something that you can lean on. Brett, no, I have not yet given a score prediction just yet. If you guys got a score prediction, lay it in the chat. Put it in the chat and give me a shout. If you have a specific shout out or question or something you want answered, I'll tell you this too. Something for future stuff as well. If you guys want to hit like the super chat or something like that, you can even pose to me a question, even if it's a question that I have to like do some research to, and then come back with the answer on like on a next show or something. We can do that. I mean, that's just your call on it, but yeah, don't be afraid to hit the super chat to help grow the nation, as Law would say. All the wide receiver needs to stay on the field: Cole, Gallup, and Cooper. Yes, sir. Dolphins lost Wilson for the year. They're going to stick with Parker, especially because he just balled out. Him being 19, what number? Bryce Butler got cut for him, so Butler's not there anymore. Yeah, Butler's second swim through Dallas was a disaster. He only played on the field like 3 or 4 snaps, and it was not pretty. His last snap in Washington, he kind of half-assed a route, and he got pulled for the game for that. Who do you think our second-round pick is going to be? That is a loaded question, because until we know who's in the draft, like who's declaring and all of that, I could tell you, like, if you're talking about what position do I want, they need to address tight end, but they also need to address safety. So it's like either you have to look at Earl Thomas, because yes, he broke a leg, but he's a free agent and there's no tendon or ligament damage. He's going to be available. And he's going to make a full recovery. So maybe you go for Earl Thomas, especially now that you should be able to get him at a little bit of a reduced rate. Go get Earl Thomas, or draft a safety. Make safety your top priority. You know, we wanted Jalen Ramsey, or sorry, not Jalen Ramsey. Who was the Florida State guy that came through this most recent time? He went like 2 picks before Dallas went. His name is suddenly somehow escaping me. If you guys have it in the chat, hit it up. It's escaping me. It's not a big thing, but if you have him or someone like him, safety is a big need. But if it's a second-round pick, you're not going to get a guy like that. So second-round pick, they probably need to look like tight end, something like that. James. Derwin James. That's it. Derwin James. Thank you, OG Kush. Let's see. We have only scored more than 17 points once this year versus Seattle. That's not true. We also scored 26 against the Lions. Oh, do you mean on the road? If you mean on the road, you're right, because in every road game this year, we have only... No, you know what? Even against the Redskins, we scored more than 2 touchdowns, right? We had a trend where we were only scoring 1 touchdown on the road. You had the Gallup one in this game, and then you had Dak rushing for 1. So, no, they got 2 touchdowns in this last road game. Should have gone for it with 52 seconds, but that's a different story there. Zach Gentry out of Michigan, 6'7" and 265. Taylor Rapp out of Washington, 6'1", 220, I think. Both of those get my attention. I'll be curious to see where they end up projecting, and once we get closer to the draft, I'll do some analysis with Law and James and see where we kind of rate them and if that should be someone that Dallas looks at. But tight end is definitely a need. Dalton Schultz could be a serviceable tight end, but I don't think he's going to be, at least from early indications, the guy they think. It sounds like even midway through the season, something hasn't quite clicked with him yet. So Brett Benner saying a 2016 win where the defense makes a huge final stand. Yeah, I'll get to my prediction here in a moment. Let me. So I was telling you guys how Tennessee rated on a bunch of these on all these stats here. The Cowboys, in terms of total offense, are 28th. The rushing attack has fallen off. Obviously, that's a big part of why they fired Paul Alexander in the bye week, and they basically said, "Hey, we're gonna flip completely back to what we did prior to him." And, technique-wise and all that, we're just going to flip it back. They upgraded Mark Colombo back to, or now he's like the offensive line coach. And they brought in Huck, former, Cowboys, 90 dynasty era, all that. Bringing him back in just to be like a senior assistant or associate, whatever you want to say. So that should help them, but... that's something Dallas has to address. The passing offense for Dallas is 29th. Again, Tennessee is 30th. The rushing attack for Dallas is 4th. So they're still doing good in that regard, although they've been bad on the road. On the road, Zeke has only gone for more than 100 yards once. That was at Seattle. So they got to figure that out for sure. I know this is a home game. I'm speaking generally on that point. The Cowboys' defense, the total defense, Cowboys are 3rd. 3rd on passing defense as well, and that's despite the fact that they give up a ridiculous completion percentage. Cowboys give up 68.8% completion percentage, which, let me see, I want to verify this before I say it. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 teams that give up a higher completion percentage than the Cowboys, as far as the secondary is concerned. And if you're curious who those teams are, I'll tell you right now. They are the Indianapolis Colts, who are the 20th rated pass defense. Again, we're 3rd. They are... I just scrolled away from it. Where'd it go? Oh, different column. They are as well the New Orleans Saints, 28th. The Atlanta Falcons, 30th. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 31st. And that's it. Those are the only 3 teams that give up a higher completion rate for the secondary. And yet Dallas is the 3rd rated pass defense. That's kind of crazy when you think about it, because they're giving up a lot of completions and they're not forcing turnovers, especially not interceptions. They have like 2 interceptions on the year. Let's look at the Cowboys' rush defense. Rush defense, Cowboys are 9th. So this is a top 5 defense, which is what we said they needed. They have it, but the offense is so bad and the offensive line has been so bad, especially on the road this year, that they're not able to really do enough with it. They're not able to build on it. You look at, I know Dak is a super polarizing figure right now. Half the fan base wants to run him out. The other half says, hey, you just got to have the right stuff around him. He can, he was Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2016. I mean, there's no doubt that you can do some things with him. Now, has he regressed? I think so, but I think that's the fault of the coaching staff. And getting him some better weapons in the form of Cooper, and especially if you end up getting him a good tight end in the draft, you're going to put him back in position to do some things. But he had a good game at Washington. There was nothing wrong with Dak's performance at Washington, but you just have to see if you can build on it and create some turnovers. That's the one thing the defense hasn't been good at. The defense has kept them in it. Defense has made plays to give them chances, but the defense can still take that next step by forcing just a few turnovers. Hawk is the truth. Yes, sir. Are you talking 3rd downs? 3rd downs. I don't know if that was a question for me, DT, or if that was off someone else, but if it was for me, I've moved far enough past the point in which you would have commented that I no longer know what I was reciting to bring that up. Let's see here. What are we ranked in turnovers? Oof, in turnovers. Let me see. For interceptions, this is going to be a very ugly list. For interceptions, Dallas is 29th. And for... Come on, load page. Don't jump down now. I actually don't see fumbles on this stat list for them. That's weird. Is it just in the field and I missed it? Sacks are there, so yeah. Okay. So Dallas on turnovers is 29th. Dallas is forced. That's 5 fumbles forced. So they forced 5 fumbles. And for interceptions, they only have the 2. So 7 turnovers. Excuse me, 6 turnovers because one of the fumbles they did not recover. So Dallas has a lot to improve there. Wow, we picked off the ball 3 times. I'm seeing 2 on interceptions. I think 1 was overturned or something. But regardless, it's not been... That's the one area the Cowboys defense has not been lights out for them. Haha, I love your show, dude. Keep it up. Thank you, DT. Let's see. Collins could be free next year from New York. Do you think we make a move for him? I would love to have Landon Collins on this team. Absolutely love it. More than I would love having Earl Thomas on this team. Now, he's more of a Cam Chancellor type than an Earl Thomas. But... I guess that's a fair point because we already kind of have a guy of that mold. I would still love to have him, but if you're having the debate like, oh, would you rather have an Earl Thomas? But it's Earl Thomas at like 30 going on 31 at that point versus Landon Collins getting his first big contract. You already got guys that kind of do what Collins does, just not as well. You have nothing that does what Earl Thomas does. So I feel like if your focus and your mentality is to try and win in the next 2 to 3 years, Earl Thomas still makes more sense. But again, assess what's in the draft and, build off of that. If we subtract the Jags game, I think we have 2 total turnovers. They had a pick in the Jags game, a fumble in the Jags game. Okay, so they had... Okay, let's reverse engineer this. They had the forced fumble at Carolina that they recovered inside their own 10. Oh, man, am I really going to try and recite everyone? They had one against Seattle. No, they forced 5 turnovers, and they had 3 in the Jags game. So they've forced 3 outside of the Jags game. To your point. Collins and Reed. Oh, Eric Reed. Eric Reed signed for the rest of the year with the Panthers. Dallas won't bring him in because he's too closely associated with the anthem protests. And Jerry Jones, he's made it very clear his stance on anthem protests. He's not going to do that. It's just not going to be an option. Otherwise, he would have already been, here. Dallas needed safety help. They've had times where they've been thin at safety because of injury. Yeah, Eric Reed, yeah. Hopefully we can have our O-line improved. I think our O-line will improve because our O-line was pretty good before. It wasn't dominant anymore, but it was still a very good offensive line for the most part. And I'll tell you, the guy who was hurt the most by the transition with Paul Alexander was actually La'el Collins, because late last year, even though you had Travis Frederick and Zach Martin on that line as well, there are analysts who would tell you that in that stretch at the end of last season, La'el Collins was the Cowboys' best offensive lineman. And I would say this year he's been probably the worst one, even with Connor Williams, a rookie there, an underweight rookie in there as well. So that's scary, but if they're flipping back to what they were doing before, maybe he can kind of recapture some of that form in the overall line play, particularly the ability for the line to run block will improve, and that will allow them to make some things happen on the road, because Zeke is still second in the league in rushing, but he used to have the lead by a mile, and now he's down like 800 yards to 614. Like, now he's the one getting left in the dust because we've had like 3 out of the last 4 weeks. Coming into this year, Zeke had only had 3 games ever, where he had failed to run for at least 86 yards. And they were always in the first 2 weeks of the season. And that was how this season started out as well, for that matter. And that all changed this season, because now, through the middle of the season, he had games like at Houston where he went 20 carries for like 54 yards. I mean, it was brutal, tough sledding where he was getting like 2.7 yards a pop. That's not what this line. You spend $100 million on your offensive line. Granted, Travis Frederick is out because of, his illness, Guillain-Barré syndrome. I get it. That's something that's awful. Even though Joe Looney has been a beast in there for them, it's not Travis Frederick, and it shows sometimes. But you spent $100 million on your offensive line, and you took an investment of the 4th overall pick in a dynamic running back, and you're going to tell me that you, through the middle of your season, on a team that's supposed to be built around this aspect of the offense, you're putting forth games on the road. By the way, run game is supposed to be what translates on the road. It's supposed to be the passing attack that gets stifled on the road. It's been the opposite. You're going to tell me that they can't run the ball on the road suddenly? Nah, the problem, I agree. The problem is there as well with the offensive line. But as I was saying earlier about the coaching staff and them really burning through whatever their excuses are. If you think about it, and I mentioned this earlier, the omission of, hey, we don't need Des Bryant, we don't need a number 1 receiver in this offense. We just need possession receivers, guys that can run a lot of different routes, and we'll make it work. Oh, first, before we even talk about that, no, the problem wasn't Garrett. I'm going to act like I'm Garrett here. The problem isn't me or my 2 main coordinators. It's the under coaching staff. So we're going to change out the running back coach, the offensive line coach, the secondary coach, the passing game coordinator, tight end coach. Like, we're going to literally burn out every position coach we have and keep the 3 guys at the top. Then on top of that, okay, yeah, we don't need Des Bryant. We just need possession receivers. So you did all that. Paul Alexander is a disaster. Sanjay Lal has not been anything special because these receivers have not been able to create consistently for them. I mean, there were people in the preseason who were saying the Cowboys probably had the worst skill group in the NFL. And, here we were kind of like, you got Zeke. How is it going to be the worst? Well, now watching it in execution, it's certainly towards the bottom. It's not very strong. Now that you get Cooper, that'll help things a little bit. And as Michael Gallup continues to ascend, that'll help a little bit. Beasley has kind of started to emerge through again. That'll help a little bit. But you definitely see for a while why this was bad. So Garrett, all these assertions Garrett made, whether it's some of the position coach hires, whether it was the philosophy on the receivers, now having to go spend a first-round draft pick to get a stud #1 receiver prospect in here. You're telling me you did all of that. You're running out of excuses. Like, there's no way. I almost feel like the Amari Cooper deal, because of his contract situation, he's going to make $14 million next year, so you got him the rest of this year plus all of next year. And they haven't extended him yet. They're going to wait until they see what he does. That was one of their kind of caveats for doing the deal with Oakland, was he had to be willing to say, hey, we can wait and talk about the contract later or the extension later. But it feels kind of like this thing could fall out even still. And if it falls out, Linehan's going to be the first head to roll. But will Garrett roll? I know everyone wants to talk about like Lincoln Riley. I don't think Lincoln Riley's coming to Dallas, but would Lincoln Riley immediately turn this offense into something much better? Yes. Lincoln Riley is a great offensive mind, a very aggressive mindset. He would kill to have an offensive line like this, to have Ezekiel Elliott, to have Amari Cooper, Cole Beasley, the possession receiver. I mean, look at what he's done with like Sterling Shepard, other slot receivers like at Oklahoma. I mean, he would love having a guy like that. Now, he only had Sterling for like 1 year as a coordinator, I guess. But even still, guy can make some things happen for sure. And he's an aggressive mentality. Jason Garrett is so conservative by default. It's infuriating watching him try to coach. Let's see here. And Collins, GD, great player who can be paid to do no issues. Yeah. The thing with Collins, I don't think Collins will get us another contract here, because I think it's either 2020 or 2021 he'll come up again. You can't keep everyone on your team because that's too much big money that you would have to pay to new contracts. So I think what's probably going to happen is Collins will be the guy on the offensive line they let go. Because they're going to have to, see, by 2021, they're going to have to figure out what they're doing as well for, like, Williams at that point, Connor Williams. Yeah, Rod and Zeke will good wingbacks. Yeah, and I don't know if Rod Smith will be back next year. I feel like he's coming free as well. But, yeah, Lincoln Riley would love to have these particular tools to play with if he was here. But I don't think that he's a fit for what... I don't think that he would do well under Jerry Jones and kind of how meddling he is. And I don't know that Jerry's willing to admit he's wrong to the point of turning that over, but the league is heading towards innovative, dynamic offenses, and Riley is, you ask just about anybody, one of the brightest offensive minds in the country right now, and the guy's like 35, 36 years old, so kind of like a Sean McVay figure in that regard, just this almost offensive mind prodigy almost to bring in. And look at what he's done at Oklahoma with college kids. So guys, hit me up with a couple questions here. I've been going about 45 minutes. I guess if you want my prediction on the Cowboys-Titans game, I already kind of gave a prediction on what I thought Cooper would do, something to the effect of like 4 or 5 catches for somewhere between 65 and 80 yards, maybe a touchdown. It's a home game. Dallas is coming off a bye. Tennessee has not been good on the road, but Dallas has been very good at home. I'm going to say that Dallas wins this game something to the effect of 23-13. That's my thinking. If people want to cry about Dak, we can pick up Kaepernick. Well, that falls into the same Eric Reed category there for Jerry Jones. He would never do it. We can definitely say, who the hell is starting the game tonight for the 49ers? Or the 49ers who's playing tonight? Whoever they're starting today, people are like, eyes popping out of their head looking at who they're playing. Like, so this is who you're playing instead of Kaepernick, huh? Like, this kind of goes towards that whole collusion case thing against the NFL, talking about how they're trying to blackball him out of the league for his activism. But not trying to get into all that here. Let's see. Yeah, use the West Coast offense with some read options and RPOs. Yep. 31-3 says OG Koosh. All right. Is that I'm assuming you mean Cowboys winning? I'm guessing your name's got dim boys in it, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably. Trying to fight off this little cold that's trying to come on. Been drinking a ton of tea. Let's see. While I got you, Chia. Whooba! Huh. So I just pretty much mashed all of those at once. It's chaos. There's that. There we are. Alright. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And hey, like this video. Haha. San Francisco was 31-3. Gotcha. Let's see. I already put Twitch up there. Like I said, if you guys want to follow us on Twitch, hey, we'd love that. By all means, we absolutely... I have a Twitch. I'm trying to set it up and actually do a little something with it, but I haven't quite got it there yet. Of course, we have the Facebook page. Like us on Facebook. Hey, for real though, we are like, what is it? I think we're like 13 likes on Facebook away from 1,000. That'd be really cool, guys. As long as I've been doing the YouTube channel, I've been doing the Facebook page longer. So I would absolutely love it if you guys could help us get to 1,000 likes on Facebook. We are at 987 presently, so we are 13 away. So if you want to do us a real solid, go mash that like button on Facebook as well. Let me see, Chia. What else can I shamelessly plug of mine? There's Twitter again. And Twitch is going again. Get out of there, Twitch. Twitch, please. I'm sorry for that one. There it is. All right. So, yes. Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Raiders are in full tank mode. They benched Carr. Yeah, Carr's been struggling for real. And that's one of the things I also brought up when I was talking about Amari Cooper. If you look at the full context of everything, the Raiders have their own quarterback problems the last year and a half. And so Cooper's decline could also be in part due to that. This year they went heavy on the running mentality and all that, which I think affected his production a little bit and his mindset. Stevie Mac, DDP, playing Madden on Twitch, yelling every time they show Garrett's face on the screen. Oh, is that what you're wanting me to do? You're recommending that I play Madden on Twitch and rage at Jason Garrett? That would be fun. If you guys want me to do some gaming content, I can certainly do that. I've done it in the past. I am not too proud to do some more of that. Sell all must go. We got to cook as well. 49ers are up 31-3. Oh, baffling. Nick Mullins. Can't catch him. That was the guy I was trying to think of earlier. That's a confusing one, but it sounds like he is laying the wood. Let's see. What else can I plug on Chia? Already did Facebook, already did Twitter. Oh, there you go. I got one more. Fwapa. Oh no. Who could have foreseen? Meh. Meh. I'm trying. Patreon, that's the other one. Alright, well, I've been going about an hour, guys. Unless you got a quick question, that's probably going to wrap up this show. I saw earlier, I think it was Isaiah saying that we need Mavs talk. Hang tight, Isaiah. I'm going to bring in more Mavs talk. I'm probably going to go live right after work tomorrow for a brief stream. I'm actually going to be at the game tomorrow night as they host the New York Knicks. So I'm going to get a up-close look at Luka Doncic and Dennis Smith Jr. and all that. Speaking of Mavericks, check out my latest article. Came out today on DallasSportsFanatic.com. That is referencing the Mavericks young duo and them working towards beginning to gel as far as their roles within the offense and basically their ability to productively coexist. So check that out for sure. And yeah, other than that, guys, I'll be back tomorrow briefly for Mavs talk. And then Sunday we'll be back in the full swing of everything because I'm going to have college football talk, another Mavericks fast break in which I'll give you all that glorious Mavs talk about the game, recent developments and everything. I plan to have any in the house as well. And Cowboys play Monday night. So that is one quick announcement on that. So for the Monday night game, obviously the Mavericks Cowboys post-game show that's normally Monday nights will now push to Tuesday night to accommodate that. But other than that, the schedule is going to be fully back to normal here. So hang tight. We got some good stuff coming. But that's all my time for tonight, guys. HD-ish. Keep it up. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's all my time for tonight, guys. Thank you for watching. Again, check us out on other social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. We're everywhere. Like this video. Subscribe. And remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute. And find the outro graphic. There it is.